Hey everybody, we are back. I do apologize. It's been like a month. I have things planned out, but they don't always go as planned out. I did watch Supergirl kind of closer to when it came out, so this review, is a little older than it should be, but better late than never, right? I do want to talk about it because there's a lot to talk about with this movie and the DCU in general, because it's really weird. I do single issue comic reviews on my TikTok, so I read all 8 issues of Supergirl, The Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King before it came out, so that kind of altered my expectations, I guess. I tried to keep my expectations pretty low because everyone was kind of hating on this. So I was kind of like, I don't know, it might be terrible. Granted, a lot of the people that were hating on it were like, the, chuds of the internet, like, oh, she looks ugly. I don't care about that. But it definitely didn't get me excited. Like, I'm not here to see Supergirl, be the most beautiful woman in the world. I'm here to watch her save the world. And especially in this comic book run, I'm here to watch her help Ruthie, kind of find herself and, find the, peace in the world, so to speak. But I do kind of want to do some, comic book movie comparisons and talk about the movie in general, give my thoughts on it. I do know, again, sorry it's late, Spider-Man is coming out tomorrow, so we're in a whole different universe. But, yeah, overall, what were my thoughts on the movie, first of all? I don't know, I was disappointed. Like I said, I didn't have any expectations to begin with, but what expectations I did have were kind of let down. So, again, I read the comic book, I had a decent idea of what was happening, and of course it was weird because everyone was upset, oh, there were articles like, James Gunn says it's not going to follow the comic book accurately, and since when has that ever mattered? Never. The Winter Soldier isn't comic book accurate. Infinity War isn't comic book accurate. Endgame isn't accurate. None of these movies are 100% comic book accurate. Even Batman, every Batman director in the universe says oh yeah, we're gonna adapt The Long Halloween and Year One and The Dark Knight Returns, and we're gonna put them in a blender and mix them together. Whoa, yippee! That's pretty much what every director has said since Nolan. So, even again, Zack Snyder took Dark Knight Returns. That wasn't 100% comic book accurate. Nobody cared. So, I don't know why everyone in the world is throwing a big temper tantrum about Woman of Tomorrow not being 100% comic book accurate. It's bizarre. But, whatever. I will say, my expectations were kind of like I said, it was a weird movie. And I did watch some videos because I'll be honest, I didn't understand the ending of the comic book. I thought that was really weird. It was bizarre. And again, that was another part of the problem was the director, I think the writer maybe said they didn't understand the ending of the comic book. So that doesn't help the movie either. Granted, if I don't understand the comic book, that's one thing. I'm a reviewer, I have my opinion, that's that. I'm not making an adaptation. If you're making an adaptation, you want to understand the story. But, like I said, I did watch some videos on it, and, got some different, opinions and stuff, so that kind of helped flesh things out, because the comic book is based on Ruthie's perspective. You're getting a, kind of a journal entry, you're getting a story from Ruthie's perspective, so it's a little altered, and again, near the ending, spoiler alert for the comic book, like I said, I have all the single issues on my TikTok, so the ending review will be different from this review, because I have, a different perspective from back then, even though it's a month ago, but like I said, I watched some videos and stuff to help me grasp it. So, yeah, like I said, Ruthie at the end, she doesn't kill Krem, and then we see, she's older, Supergirl puts him in the Phantom Zone, and they, he comes out of the Phantom Zone, and he's like, my life has changed. I have a different life perspective. I'm very sorry about what happened. Stuff like that. And then Ruthie hits him with the cane. So I honestly, thought he was dead. Like other people said. And granted, I get it. Oh, he's, I've heard some people he's obviously not dead. Obviously that wasn't what happened. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get it. But, usually, I would think if you hit a, 90-year-old man with a cane, he's, at least going to be in, critical condition. You give him an uppercut, that's not going to be good for him, I would assume. And again, he doesn't, say anything. He's just left there lifeless. And again, if we're looking at, mirror imagery, I would assume from the mirror of the first issue where you see Ruthie's dad dead on the floor, I was expecting, oh, it's mirroring the, beginning of the comic. That was my interpretation. So, clearly I got it wrong. Some people want to be condescending about it, obviously that's not what happened. But, sorry, that's my perspective. But, yeah, I was a little confused. I especially didn't like the twist with Crypto. Oh, yeah, Crypto's fine. No big deal. I just brought you along to teach you a lesson. Which I guess is, fine, whatever. But, again, I just thought it was really weird. Didn't expect that to happen, I guess. I thought, it just seemed like a weird twist. And especially when the, rest of the comic has been, very serious and dealt with a lot of death and despair and stuff like that. A lot of struggle. It almost seemed kind of funny in a way, so I thought it just seemed like a strange twist to pull out of nowhere. I get the idea because again, she's Supergirl, she can do anything. So, whatever, I guess. But I just thought it was a strange twist to have to pull. But yeah, overall, I did think the comic was really good. It did have, like I said, a lot of death and despair, a lot of good character moments with Supergirl. I'm not going to say I'm a Supergirl expert, so I don't know how accurate it was to the comic book, or to the original source material. I have heard Tom King kind of mischaracterizes people, and again, some people don't even like him because of the whole, CIA thing. I don't know anything about that, but whatever it is. But yeah, back to the movie. I do think it is really strange, because the comic book is full of, great art, very colorful art, and it's a story about Supergirl and Ruthie and stuff. And again, it is strange because it is from Ruthie's perspective. So the Supergirl movie generally needs to be from Supergirl's perspective. We get a lot of flashbacks from Krypton, stuff like that. And again, it makes a weird juxtaposition, in my opinion. Because again, the comic book is from a different perspective, and as someone said in a different video, we're seeing a Supergirl that's not our idealized version, and it's the second movie in the universe. Because we've had Superman, we've had Creature Commandos, we've had Peacemaker, but again, this is the second movie, and we have no time with Supergirl, except for, Superman in this movie. So it's a weird route to take in general, because we're seeing an alcoholic Supergirl. And that's another thing I do want to touch on, is in the comic book, it's not really super heavily focused on. It's just you see her at a bar, she's clearly drinking, she clearly has problems and kind of survivor's guilt type stuff. But it's not, I don't think, in my opinion, the whole focus of the comic book. In my opinion, the comic book is focused on hope and Supergirl's perseverance. And I feel the writer of this movie kind of twisted that and oh, she's just a total burnout kind of person, which I mean is fine, I guess, but it's not a Supergirl we're necessarily used to. Granted, again, I'm not going to be an expert, I'm not a Supergirl fanatic, so, I'm sure somebody out there is, but I'm not going to claim to know everything. But again, it is a weird take on the character, in my opinion. And again, with James Gunn's DCU, I do think it's weird that they have such a, for lack of a better word, bland movie. Not to be disrespectful, but like compared to the comic book, you have like all this bright color, you have, you know, Comet the Super Horse, and none of that is in the movie. We get like Lobo, and I mean, that's cool, I guess, but that's not really what I was expecting. But yeah, again, this movie has had a whole lot of like stuff against it. I know I work at a movie theater, and we only had it for like 2 weeks. The time I was there was not a lot of people that watched it. I think at max there was like 16 people maybe in one theater, but like most of the time for a showing of Supergirl, it'd be like one person, two people. Sorry, that was improper English, but you know, I watched it in a theater with like one other person, so there wasn't a lot of people in there. So yeah, it did not do well. We'll see how the rest of DCU handles, because next month we have Lanterns coming out. Again, people are not excited about that, so that's a bummer. Clayface, I'm really excited for, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, overall, I would give Supergirl like maybe a C. Like as a movie, it was like a 7 out of 10. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. I didn't leave feeling as optimistic as I did with Superman, but it was fine. I'll give it bonus points because it had Satin in a Coffin by Modest Mouse, but overall, it was okay. Thanks for watching, and keep on reading comics. Peace. Oh, and I don't know, also Lobo. I guess we do need to talk about Lobo. I was also disappointed with him. Jason Momoa looked the part, but there was something about him that didn't seem like, 100% there. He did say bastage, so that was cool, but I don't know, he was disappointing too. But overall, like I said, it was fine. Thanks for watching. Keep reading comics. Peace.